Hey guys, hey friends, hey, I haven't come up with a thing yet and I want to zoom out a little bit. Okay, yeah, we get it, it's weak, but anyway, for this video, I really wanted to open with this tweet because I don't think that anything sums it up better. I've had a lot of breakdowns about it, but why I wanted to make this video. So, number one, YouTube has been the one thing that has kept me from absolutely losing it these past 5 months since I graduated in May. Second of all, going and looking for jobs, going through Indeed and LinkedIn and trying to network and doing all these things ends up feeling isolating and very like self-defeating almost. And I really wanted to share my experiences and some of my more ridiculous stories just so that if there's anybody out there also experiencing this, like knowing that you're not the only one, and if anybody else out there is using YouTube as like their way of not losing their mind while you're going through this whole process, maybe they'll find this video and it'll be cute and meta and like helpful. Third reason, sometimes when I speak in contexts like this, not necessarily out of video but in terms of like giving speeches, which I really like doing, just like giving these kind of talks and like working through it for like someone else in theory. I don't know if anybody will watch this, but well, I mean, I will. There's one, sometimes speaking like that and working through it in the context of like talking to other people helps me kind of motivate myself. And fourth and foremost, I wanted to film this as for most of the reasons that I want to film anything, because I need to film things so that I have content so that I can edit it, because editing is one of the only activities I have found that I really like doing while I'm at home. So those are like, that's my rationale. I really want to be clear about that because I don't want anybody being like, you're just complaining, oh my gosh. This is the perspective that I'm coming at it from, and I hope that you can understand that and listen to it and be like, okay, like I see where she's at, and not from a place of like judgment, you know? Cool. I also do really want to be aware of my privilege in general in life. Like I always really try and do that because I know that I do have quite a bit. I really am aware of the things that I know I'm very lucky to have. I'm very thankful for them, and part of the reason why I am so like caught up on wanting a job so much is so that I can do cool things for the people that have helped me get here. That's kind of my like preface to this whole story. So in terms of the outline for this video, two main things. I'm gonna go into job search horror stories, which was my original first video idea because things just kept getting weirder and more ridiculous and turning my life into even more of a sitcom, like I said. And then the second part of the video is gonna be more like the things that I think when I'm getting kind of down about it, and the things that I tell myself, the reasons and the like thought process behind knowing that you are not a failure. That is like the gist of kind of how this is laid out, and I'm gonna get started. One thing that I thought was really funny when I was like coming up with examples for this first part of the video, I remembered, so in 2011 it was my parents' wedding anniversary. Well, okay, an anniversary happens every year, but this was a big one. It was a special one. And we took a trip. We're going on a trip. And there was a guy on this plane who proudly stood up at the end of the flight and announced that he was just gonna get off in Honolulu with his two, you know, checked bags. I don't even know if they were checked, like with whatever bags he had. No job, no plans, nowhere to stay. And he was getting off and hoping it worked out. And everybody on the plane was like, that's dumb. Good luck, buddy. And it's 7 years later now. Now it's 2018, and I'm really excited to share that story because I basically just did the same thing. Good luck, buddy. It's kind of a mess. One of my favorite stories. So I was really excited about this interview, and the HR coordinator had given me 2 potential interview times. I said that I could do either one, and I said the one that would work better for me, and I never got a response. And then I get a call on one of the time slots, and the lady was like, are you on your way? And I was like, oh, I never got a confirmation, like you never told me what time to come. Asked if we could chat on the phone later in the day, like after my classes, and I was like, yeah, of course. Like I thought we just moved the interview to then. The HR coordinator called me at the time, me thinking that this was an interview, to ask if she could be frank, and I was like, well, yeah, I mean, of course, like ask what you want. And she was like, oh no, I'm just being frank, you will never get a job. That was very unprofessional, never going to succeed with an attitude like that. And I was like, whoa. Even if you were upset, like that's fine, but you don't have to start insulting somebody. Like you don't have to be like, you can say that like that was not great and like you could work it out together. That's not like, I wasn't like purposefully being like, I'm just not gonna show up to an interview. I was like, I never got a confirmation. Apparently the proper form of doing that is to tell the applicant that they'll never have a job and that basically they suck. So that was fun. That was a great intro to the world of interviewing. So one of my other favorite stories was part of this job search process. They said that they had a lot of candidates and that I was one of the top applications that they got and they would love to chat with me. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, awesome. Would love to chat with you. And I gave them times and then I never got a response. And then they asked for more times for a later period because like some of the times had already passed. And I was like, okay. And I sent them more times and I never got a response. And I asked them about the interviews and I never got a response. And then about a week later, they were like, as we said, we had a lot of candidates, please send more times. And I was like, what do you mean please send more time? Long story short, I was ghosted by that company 4 times. I submitted 4 sets of different times that I could have interviewed and I never got a response, even after emailing multiple people in the organization. I was like, why date when you could just put job applications out there? Like, I don't need to get ghosted by a guy, I can get ghosted by a company. Love being ghosted in general, especially when it's your career at stake, you know? Oh, I flew on a 5.5-hour flight at 6 in the morning to be at an interview for the whole day. At the end of the interview day, because it was like one of those like super days where they have a bunch of people in, they had us all like have mocktails and cupcakes and things like that, and they specifically told us that we would all be getting calls because at this point we had just gone through like 4 rounds of interviewing and we're in person. It's rude to not call, you know, have that personal interaction, given that you've met with like 5 people at the company who interviewed you and then like interacted with all of these people that work there, you know. Great. That was a Thursday. First thing Monday morning, I get an email from a do not reply email address, no name, no person behind it, rejecting me in block format. I was like, are you kidding me? Because, you know, that maybe like wouldn't bother me if you hadn't gone out of your way to say that we would all be getting phone calls. Like, okay, so then what, I just didn't deserve a phone call? Or like, and not even that, but like also that it was an email from a computer and not like a person that I had talked with that was saying real things. One of my other favorites that cued a huge mental breakdown, it can probably insert some pictures or videos and hopefully distract myself from the annoyance and impending doom of having to go back to searching for jobs on LinkedIn and Indeed. And I had gone through 3 rounds of interviewing and I felt so energized and so good about it, and it was like a wonderful vibe. I just had the best interview. I am obsessed, and it went so well. And every interview I had, it was incredible. Like nothing went wrong. Like I was really like, yes. And everything was going great. And I was getting ready for like my final interview. I literally got dressed, I was ready, I had everything set up. I had to do Skype because I wasn't in the area. And I'm like set up, I'm waiting. And I checked my email, and 10 minutes beforehand, before it was scheduled, before we had been all set up, I got ready, right? I have an email in my inbox that was like, we don't want you, bye. And it's like,
My life is an actual joke. Oh my god. So I was supposed to have another chat with the same company that I talked to yesterday. This is the third chat with the same company at noon. And I got an email 10 minutes ago, so like right before noon, that they just decided that they're not moving forward with me and that, okay, wow, what the f.
That was a real breaking point for me. I was not having a good time. I kind of had a little breakdown. I was having a terrible day. Oh, I have like a really funny video clip. It's like a Snapchat that I made because LinkedIn will send me these emails. LinkedIn sends me emails all the time. It's like I'm so popular.
Oh my god, stop fucking lying. Always lying to me. Why? You lying so much. Why?
Like LinkedIn and Indeed and all these places will be like, oh my gosh, companies want grads. And I'm like, they don't. They really don't. And you know, it's just really confusing and it leads to a lot of like self-deprecating thoughts and wondering like, what did I do wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? Why does anybody want me? And if you are feeling that way, I totally get it. It is very difficult and very like, it's just not fun to be like constantly rejected. So I guess that moves into like the other part of the video that I wanted to get into was kind of like what I think, how I kind of go about processing the different rejections and feelings that come up in this whole process, because I know it is very, very hard, and if you are there, I'm there with you and I totally understand. And this is just kind of what I've come to realize and think about and rationalize, because sometimes the breakdowns lead to revelations. Regardless of how many companies or organizations or places that you apply to, people that you interview with, no matter how many of those people tear you down or make you feel like you're not good enough and don't believe in your potential and don't want to invest in that, you and me, we cannot let that influence our belief in ourselves. You kind of have to think about, it's like it's not you, and it never is you. It's always about the company and where they're coming from and economy, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have faith in you, you know, but it can always feel like that, and it starts to kind of wear down on at least my personal like belief in my abilities and belief that I'll end up with something worthwhile and meaningful. But what really is key is that you can't let other people not having faith in you stop you from having faith in you. So regardless of anything else going on, regardless of all these jobs and employers and everything like that, and regardless of what society might make you feel like, you have to believe in yourself, and you totally can, and you should, and I believe in you. Also, no matter what societal expectations are on you, failure is not equivalent to like unemployed. Like unemployed doesn't mean failure, and employed doesn't mean success. Even if those are like the connotations that we kind of have in our we've internalized throughout our lives. We don't have to own that. Like that doesn't have to be how we define things. So something else that I really liked thinking about throughout this interesting process.
Whoa.
Interesting process is that we define our own success. So yeah, maybe I am feeling really like kind of like I failed because I don't have a job and it's like 5 months after graduation. But that might not be what I actually value, and that might not be my definition of success. We all define our own success, and maybe being successful is being able to impact others in a positive way, or getting to use creativity on a daily basis, or maybe it is just making it through the day. I think we also get caught up in this whole like things have to be a big deal to matter, but honestly most of us are kind of taking things very slow and small and can't really handle this huge idea, huge picture thing because of the way society is set up. Can you tell I have some problems with society? And I think that really we have to be honest with ourselves and what we value and think about it in terms of like, we don't need to own that guilt that we might be feeling from like other people's expectations. And the guilt that is placed on us from other people or society, or how we think we like should be acting, or what we should be doing, or what we should have by now. We don't have to own that. Like, that is not ours. That's just from them. And I think it's really empowering and helpful throughout this whole process to think about it in terms of like, we define what we want in life and what success is for us. And success doesn't have to be what other people are telling you it should be. And that kind of can remove a lot of guilt and shame and some of that in this situation. And I think finding anywhere to be like empowered in this, I guess, experience of not fully having control and having people judging and rejecting and not believing in the potential that you might have. I think it's really important to find different ways to feel empowered and feel strong and confident in yourself. And that's something that has helped me, is like knowing that my definition of success could be that today I did something nice for myself. And it doesn't have to be like centered around the fact that like I need a job and like that's how I define success. Like, maybe I'm successful because I'm making a video, and that is like a creative thing that I like doing, you know. One thing that I keep coming back to is that I'm like, oh, I'm starting to feel desperate, or like I'm like being ridiculous and desperate, and this is like, you know, sad, and kind of thinking about it very negatively. Well, I took the liberty of searching the synonyms of desperate or desperation, and the synonyms for desperation: risk, boldness. Those are things, I don't know about you, but those are things that I really aspire to be, is like adventurous, bold, risk-taking, fearless, like things like that. And those are all on the other side of the desperation coin. Like, it's the same thing. It's like, maybe this is a bad experience and maybe you feel very desperate and bad and guilty and shameful and all of these things, first of all, that you don't have to own. But second of all, that is what can enable you to fully become daring and bold, because honestly, it's like, it doesn't matter. At this point, you have nothing to lose, and that's kind of what it feels like. And it's kind of cool to like reframe words in that way. So if there's any other like, I guess, feelings that you guys are having about job search or being unemployed or whatever, I would definitely encourage you to look up synonyms and see what are some of the, I guess, more positive aspects that come along with something that might feel negative. Okay, thank you so much for watching, listening to that whole super long rant. You are powerful and incredible and badass, and I can't wait to see what you do in this world, regardless of whether or not other people think it is successful. See you all next time, and if you want to watch me do stuff, subscribe.